Anybody got anything to say? Email me at PEKA69. I mean, CA me. Man. Y'all seen any email addresses? Because I ain't. I was sitting here thinking, right? Um, things is different, right? But not just in my environment, but in some others too. It's really a beautiful thing, you know? We all congregating, it's stimulating, and they aiding. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I did? I dig my big one this morning, this afternoon. I woke up to sleeping giants, y'all. You know what I'm talking about? The sleeping giants. Some of y'all noticing things is different. Y'all know what I seen? I seen uh, another interview. I think it's a different interview because you know it looked like he had on different clothes. Unless y'all, like hold on, let me take about 30 minutes to an hour or something. Let me change my tire, like that. Blueface, right? He's interesting. You know, I imagine he's the type that you gotta pick his brain. You know, not jump in it and say I'm Blueface. You know what I'm saying? Nothing like that. The interviewer, y'all know him, ask him sassafras won't, right? And in so many words, he said, I almost got that day. And I was like, I just told a story like that. The thing about it is, when you get caught off guard, because that's an example, you get caught off guard, you know, get caught slipping, like they say. Just being an old regular person. When people think you got money, this is why they're saying tuck your chain. That's a real thing. Some people get agitated if they have to do that because you know they feel like somebody think they scary or something. You walking around with a quarter mil on your neck around a whole bunch of starving, hungry people. You know, that's the type of stuff that happen when you don't ascend. By the way, because there be all kind of signs telling you to move on. Some people can't ascend for whatever reason. Like before I ascended, I had a feeling like they coming in. Who? The Monashisa sucking the Tashi. Because you shift, right? Physically. You like go to sleep, wake up, be somewhere else, but everything look the same. And you like people acting strange and unusual. You hearing stuff and you don't see it. Then you just, your intuition kick in. You be like, something not right. Like, I'm the type. I keep my head down. You know what I'm saying? I move in silence. When I'm in the area, it's always an area that is secure at that moment, right? This is what took place before Ascension. I went through several, you know. I said, something just don't feel right. It's always an outsider. It's always a friend of the family, a friend of a friend that you happen to know, or a neighbor that be with it. They don't be the people necessarily that stay adjacent to you a lot of times. Because they be with the ish too if they from somewhere else. If they feel like they could get away with it, they'll try you. But I remember one time, right? I was like, this is when the sorceress kicked in to me. I said, this ain't feasible and this ain't copacetic. So I said, all right, I got something for you. and I did, right? I did my little woo-bop. You know what I'm saying? Next thing I know, he just walking around looking behind him. He like, is somebody following me? At the time, I didn't know that what I did worked, right? You know what I'm saying? Because, you just experimenting, that intuition kick in, that lineage, and you be like, let me mix this, let me mix that, you know what I'm saying? And then, voila, kamikaze, you know what I'm talking about? All of a sudden. Let me tell you something. When I say somebody is no more, I mean kaput. When you are unalive, you are unalive. But there's variables to that, depending on who you are. When you ascend to such a level, right? The big G will say, I desekaned you, but I put you back in your body. Y'all know what I'm talking about? That life after unaliving experience. A lot of times, y'all hear about it, people in the hospital, it happens to them. But it can happen to you in your bed. I imagine when you at the crossroads, right? The spiritual one, where you're about to be led down the hall of two truths, right? The big G comes to you and asks you questions. It didn't happen like that with me. I wasn't on my last leg or nothing like that, but something similar happened. And no, not when I got capped. When I got capped, it was like I went into a void. It was like, it's like you're there, but you're not. The adrenaline is going. It's painful. It hurt, but you don't like really feel it yet. Then if you happen to see a hemoglobin there, then that's something else. Some people panic. But because I had a guardian angel there, and I told y'all about that, a black dude in all white in the town. Everybody else was frozen like the Matrix. He just came from the back and was like, you do this, you do that. And if he wouldn't have been there, yeah, that is why I love the town. One of the reasons why. Then I probably wouldn't be here like this. I'd be somewhere else probably, you know what I'm saying? But the thing about it is, I done lost my train of thought because somebody wanted to know what it feel like. I feel like it's not painful when it first happened. It's there. Something feels strange and unusual because your equilibrium is off. But after, when everything's healing, that's painful. That's a pain you don't ever want to feel. I lost my train of thought. It'll come back. I was talking about Blueface. That was earlier. But he was talking about a situation where they, they ROB'd him. You know? And it's like when you think about situations like that, how extreme it could go, just because somebody know your face, you know, it make you move different. You don't want to live in the same place. This is why a lot of people make money, even outside of the industry. They'll make money and then they'll move out of their environment because it's not safe. You know what I'm saying? It has everything to do with the people that come into the community. Like with me, when I entered into the Jets, I was coming from, a sketchy past. So it didn't make me know, never mind that I was going to the Jets, you know. But when I got there, I was like, this is not for me, because you can't have nothing. In a situation, in a situation where you from the hood, not the Jets. Being from the hood doesn't mean you from the projects. You got residential and then you got the projects. They already feel some kind of way about that, you know? Like, the parts that I stayed in town was residential, so it's different. You get a different energy from people when they residential, you know? It's not like, and they make, and some of them make more money than you daily. But it's like an energy there, maybe because it's tied in with the service. The Jets. The one I was in for sure was. A lot of people don't know that those were housing for service members before they were projects. So it's like, it is portals in the Jets. Bobby Hemmett did a class on that. Well, not on that specifically, but he touched that topic. I believe he was talking about the one in Chicago, but I could be mistaken. The energy there, especially if somebody pass over in one of them units. You know, if you somebody like me, you gonna hear footsteps. If they got stairs, you gonna hear a footstep. On the stairs. You may or may not see a ghost-like figure or something. You may hear stuff. It just depends. I mean, this type of topic, you can't say either is lying, either is right, because people talk about it all day. The life after unaliving could happen when you're just laying in your bed. When you say reincarnate, incarnate, reborn, that's in that it's in that energy, reborn energy. So, for instance, when you go into an establishment like a 501c3, and y'all know what I'm talking about, and they say, I have been reborn, born again. Some of y'all don't realize that comes from a true saying. I feel like it just picked up, it just picked up in that religious aspect because there people are more accepting of that type of conversation. But at some point, the first person said, I've been reborn, born again. And they really meant it. We feel like, the pastor is gonna dip our head in some tap water and we're gonna come up out of there and everything is clean. You know what I'm saying? It's every bit of tap water. Sometimes it get worse when you do that. It's called a baptism. Because when you have hands on you and you don't know if the hands are clean, and then they're doing things like prayer and stuff, you know, a heathen can't pray for you and then you reach a new status. It's about how you live your life. You know, you're talking about, it's not about being perfect. It's about knowing when to stop. Knowing when to stop, learn your lesson. Don't keep pushing. Don't keep pushing everything, forcing it. Because you're going to get pulled. That HOE car. You know what I'm talking about? It's important because it happens to a lot of beings. And when it happens, you may have a walk-in entity, a walk-in spirit, or something otherworldly, because you don't know the contract that that body has. It's all about your biological parents. You know, somebody may have said, for instance, Archie David, right? Y'all remember when he said, "Your son is mine," in so many words. Your firstborn, your child, whatever he said. He said something in that manner, right? I said, he really mean that. Because afterwards, his demeanor got so laid back, he kind of like chilled, like, you know. Because sometimes your being, your being just gotta let you know, you know. And so, a situation like that is in alignment with what I'm talking about. Your parents, your biological parents have a child, and somebody, in a past life said, your child belongs to me. Like that. You don't know what for, though. It could be for a hostile takeover. You know what I'm talking about? When you start talking about selling of the soul, that's something different. Like, when you start talking about that, Baphomet is not the one that comes in. It's Beelzebub. See, Hess story has it mistaken. Y'all feel like it's Coupe de Ville, and I keep telling you that's not him. You can't do that to him. He hear it, especially now. He hear when people say it in the music industry. But he not accepting that contract. That's what Beelzebub, because he gonna say, what are you? What are you? Truly. I feel like I'm interesting. My topics are interesting. When I said it's only certain individuals that have access to my channel because they ascended, I meant that. I didn't grow up knowing who Bobby Hemmitt was. I had to go through the conscious gate. That means my mind had to be open to even encounter that content. Before then, I was all, natural hair movement. Y'all remember that? I took all the perm out of my hair, Took all the weave out. You know what I'm saying? I was rocking my little wash and go. My little wraps, head wraps, That was about 2012, 13, something like that, 14. So, I say all that to say, when y'all wake up, especially if you're an angel, off top elect ones all the time, you have to understand that you've been there before. And when it get funky, it get funky. If you are a being like a demon, it get funky because you're in that area, you're in the right timeline, and you're on the right paradigm for it. You know, you pull up at the corner store, that's a paradigm. You right there. Somebody see you, oh, nice chain. Who are you gonna sell it to? He don't know, and you don't know, but it's worth a try. Because I imagine if you got someone, right, that can buy a 250,000 chain, then why not, it just don't make sense. Yeah. Maybe take it to the pawn shop. Y'all know what's happening with them. You ever just looked at a pawn shop and say, how they in business? You know what I'm saying? Case in point. You know? I seen a Sauce Walker interview too. And he's kind of intelligent. I imagine he knows stats really well because of the stuff that he was talking about. I don't know if I heard his music or not because I'm not a, groupie or anything, I possibly have heard his music, but I'm not gonna be like, Blueface, you know. If I were to see somebody like Bobby Hemming, I'd be like, man, come on, let me get an autograph, but not no rapper. When I seen Dave Chappelle, I was like, Dave Chappelle, because I couldn't, I didn't believe I seen him in that area, I'm like, what you doing down here? It take you by surprise, but I'm not the type to be like, let me take a picture with you. Let's go live. That's not me. I'd probably be sitting in my car saying, there go Blueface. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, that's not me. Y'all know that. I'll probably talk about it, the podcast. I'm going to sit and watch everything and be like, I channeled that 2 years ago. Now I'm going to give you confirmation. I know who that was. I'm about to share the video with you. That's how I move. Here's Sauce Walker, right? He was talking about the analytics game. What things look like. I seen something with Lavish D too. He's talking about numbers and features. And coincidentally, right, no coincidence, Sauce Walker was talking about the same thing, kind of features and all of that. The thing, the thing about when you there, you got the fame but not the money. Perfect example. When you got the fame but not the money, but you look like you got the money. When you go to someone and say, let's do a song together, if you looking like 100 mil, but you only got $50 in your pocket, you know what I'm saying? It's different, features. Well, features are interesting. With me, say if I wanted to purchase a beat or something, right? Just say I wanted to purchase a beat. And I go to a producer and I say, can you make me a beat? He gonna give me a price, right? If I say, well, I want you to say 2 or 3 words, just 2 or 3, he gonna give me a price. But me, you know what I'm talking about? I like to read the fine print, even if it take me 30 days, you know what I'm saying? I am not messing with you ninjas like that. I'm reading the fine print because, you can't be all gung-ho, and just want to sign everything away. You know what I'm saying? Me, I read the fine print. I'd be like, all right, 20s and 30s, 50s and 40s. Is this beat mine? That's what I be like, you know. Is this beat, do I got the rights to this beat? Because like, what if it blow up? You know what I'm saying? And then you want to cut. You know what I'm talking about? That's how I am. Now, if you think you're going to take that to any producer, right? They're going to look at you and laugh. Because you're not me. Some of y'all is figuring out that I got more fame than you and you are a local rapper. Like, if I were to go to Asia, I'm not. There'd be people there that say, they say, that's Ether. That's her. Then they'll probably be like, let me take a picture. My hair is one. And then because it's me. You know? Somebody said that I needed to go to Paris because my content would be accepted in Paris. Y'all feel like, and this is why when people have fame and they have recognition to go with the fame, they start exploring. You know. But when you ascended and you shouldn't have, that's another variable there. Say you got some money, right? And someone before you ascended and you happen to encounter them and they put you on, right? That means you took somebody's place that was supposed to get put on at some point. It's karma for that. It's you know, when I say people need past life, present karma, energy pools, I mean that. Because just because you're good right now, don't mean you're going to encounter, especially ascended beings. Doesn't mean you're going to be good next week. Because it's only so many times you're going to get a word. You know, it's only going to be, you know, so many times. And if you happen to cross paths with someone else, Osikenas, that did all kind of hexes on ascended beings, if you happen to enter into that plane and that realm at the same time, then you in for a world of trouble. I said, Big G, God, when is this stuff gonna stop? I didn't realize that I would be a part of the reason why it stops. Paradigm shift, especially coupled with ascensions, don't just stop because the Big G say, you know, I mean, you know, it does, but you know, so much stuff has to happen before it just shut down, because he could just wipe everything away, you know, and we would just ascend automatically. But that's for the originals. I'm not an original. I'm a descendant of an original. So that means there's a sequence that has to happen. And sometimes simultaneously. Things have to take place simultaneously. So, for instance, when I got capped, I asked the Big G, I said, well, why did that happen? And he said, because sometimes he don't answer you. He'll let you figure it out. He said, because that region needed angel hemoglobin for purification. Could you imagine that? When you like, it's either you gonna purify it or he gonna wipe it out. Which brings me to the south. Y'all understand why there's so many hurricanes, you know, over there? I'm not gonna talk about it though right now. You know, this is something that came across my mind the other night. I got the answer years ago. because of all that spliff cut that takes place there, that took place that involved hedges. This is why the majority of the oak trees are original trees, because of what was underneath those trees. Angel hemoglobin. You know, would I go back to the South? I've been to the South. Would I go back to the South? Probably not. No. One of y'all finna get gaffled up in Texas. There, I said it. Yeah. And you probably was doing time with them too. You know what I'm talking about? So, I do, I do freebies sometimes. It just be 1, 2 words. That be it. Y'all, you know what I'm saying? You can't expect a whole 1 hour and a half video, 3, 6 uploads, because y'all hard-headed. I just be like, whoop, 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 and that's it. You got to figure out who, why, when, and where. I know, but the game is to be sold, not told. You know what I'm talking about? It's like this. Some of y'all is saying, yeah, those is casualties, but that's neither here nor there. Listen, some of y'all is saying either is the ones that this involves got the dough. They got it. They just don't want to come up off of it. You know what I'm saying? So that means you got to learn the hard way. I'm just saying. I feel like, well, when I said you gonna pay me the debt and get something in return from it, or you gonna pay somebody else? It's not you just finna, just walk around and everything is all right. It don't happen like that. When I say you can have this stuff taken off, and some of y'all know that your moms get down with the get down, your grandma get down with the get down, your baby mama whoop whoop whoop, and you feel like because they know what to do, that you protected. You're walking around with ungi in your back pocket. Root. Does root protect you from a demonic sheet? No, it does not. What does a root protect you from? Well, you mean you might be able to chew on it. You won't get gingivitis or something. But it's not. It's not. Listen. Either know what to do. You know what I'm talking about? When I was where you was at, it was a daily thing. I was whoop wop 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 because I had to. I told you then that I deal in protection. My craft, my field is protection. That's what I said. Back then, I wasn't saying that. I had not ascended out of a portal yet. All kind of stuff happened. Let me tell you, it was so many of these readers that they was doing it too, and because they was feeling some kind of way, I had to back them up off me too. You know what I'm saying? They know what I'm talking about. It's not like that no more. Let me tell you something. When you got a Heskana on you, you do things out of fear. And then if you feel like you won, then you start gloating. That's not me. It was on my heritage, not on me. It's different. When somebody put a hexagon on you, it's different. That was on my universe mother and my universe father because they're originals. This is the reason why y'all cannot connect with y'all's because you got one. You had to go through me. That means I would have to tell you who they are. And the minute you mess up, conversation over. They not talking to you. They not protecting you. They not doing none of that. Y'all call them y'all ancestors. I'm for sure about it because it didn't happen a few times. Y'all call it don't bite the hand that feeds you. If I told you who your universe parents were, and then you went against the grain, and then all of a sudden it just stopped, communication stopped, that's because you did something that you weren't supposed to do to me. You said something that you wasn't supposed. That's how it works. Because they gonna say you're not ready. If you know you can't do whoop whoop whoop, whoop, if you know that you can't do that, then you're ready. But if you feel like you're gonna do it and get away with it, then you're not ready. It's obsolete. You don't, why even waste their time? That's how they feel. It's been this long. It's so much stuff that didn't happen that is significant to a lot of ascended beings just in the last 3 years. My thing is, if you know you got the money, if you know you got it, and you sitting hoping that you gonna catch a crumb, then, catch a crumb. That's how I feel. That's how it is in business. I'm not finna come to you and say, I'm the oracle of the ether. I'm Sadagisias. I'm a cherub and whoop whoop, a pantheon, oversoul, and ooh doo 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 doo. Let me get a free beat. I'm not, I'm not finna present my resume to you to get something for free. Or you should know who I am. I'm whoop 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 whoop. I should get this for free. Come on now. We all gonna be poor around here. Then you go and spend 1,000 on some herbs and just blow it. Come on now. It be all kind of, the holiday. Either don't celebrate holidays, either celebrate holidays. When I was going through the conscious gate, I didn't because I was learning the significance behind them. But when I got out of that gate, I said, I am about to cook me a turkey, put this tree up, because you know the 360. My advice is if you're going through a conscious gate, not to celebrate no holiday. Because you don't know who you is and you don't know who you calling on. You know what I'm saying? When I found out about crumpets, I was like, what is this and where is this at? Scotland? I'm like, they do all this? You can't just say, either, for instance, either got a problem with witches, either don't have no problem with witches. Because I know the originals. It's the ones that that think they are that I have a problem with. They don't know if they high priestesses. They don't know if they sorcerers. They don't know. They don't know what they are. Prophetess. They feel like they can say I'm this now. Now they feel comfortable with saying here I'm this. For instance, when I'm at my sister's house, I'm this. When I'm at the store, I am religious. When I'm with my dad, I am holy. Like kind of like that. It's not the same. I did not give myself these titles. They were given to me because I reached a certain status. The originals definitely know the true meaning of pantheon, but for them to tell to you, you would have to descend. You would have to know their dialect. I told them, I said, look, one time, they like to talk to me in their dialect, right? And at that time, it's like I was so frustrated. Speak English, and they all started laughing because it just dawned on them that they have to speak English. You feel like they black, so they speak English. You know what I'm saying? Case in point. You know what I'm talking about? They black, so they speak English. No, you know. I said a few cuss words, I said, and they all started laughing. They say, cherubs don't do that, you know. Do she know what she's saying? No, but I said it anyway. Uvalila. Is it gonna so chicken thing? You see what I'm talking about? I be wanting to. Like, when I'm around certain Hispanics, I be wanting to talk Arequina. But they not gonna understand it. It'll be like it'll be little bit because that's the original Hascana Espanol, Spanish. They're not gonna understand it. To them, it's gonna be broken Mexicana. Kind of like what I talked about when I said when you're talking to an El Salvadorian and you're using Mexicana, they don't understand that. And you be thinking like, well, they the same, and they not. They not the same. They're not the same heritage. Tongan, Samoan. Case in point. Y'all have to understand that it's more than just black and white. Somebody wants to say, what is the native language for Anglo-Saxon? English. Aha! Aha! Now we're getting on that indoctrination topic. Wait a minute. You mean we riding around speaking Anglo? Yes, we is. Those of you that go through a certain gate that's associated with the conscious community, y'all like to speak Asikina. You know, and it's associated with the Yoruba culture. That's not for me. I would speak Swahili. Ka Swahili now. Y'all feel like y'all see dark skin and you should be speaking patois, depending on where you're at. And this is what I'm saying. Like, if y'all know that you can speak Adiga because you're not saying it right, I know what you want to say, but they're not going to let me say it because they want me to teach the right way. So I say patois, French or something like that. Y'all don't get it. If you are from Paris, you're going to speak Alecana, French. You don't know what you're speaking. To me, patois is just like English with an accent. You know what I'm saying? So um it's just English with an accent in my opinion, but I could be wrong. Um, we call it pig Latin. the edeka, when you add something to the end, you take the two, 3 words. That's what we call it in Cali, at least where I'm from. You know, that is urban urban dialect. Because some, when I was coming up, some could say a whole conversation like that, and I'd be like, "What?" When you start learning your original dialect, it comes natural. When you try to associate a word that you know with the original dialect, sometimes they can't. And so this is the reason why I said that. It, like Spanish. Sometimes there's not a word to describe what they really truly mean. And it's like that with spiritual practices too. When someone came and said, "I'm a sorceress," for instance, someone else came and said, "I am a high priestess," you want to know what the difference is. A church. Y'all do understand that high priestesses are associated with Catholicism. So y'all running around saying you do this, that, and the third witchy stuff under that rank. When you're a prophetess, that means you're something like an oracle. That means you're prophesizing over people, which is a true thing. It's not just about Bible quotes and memorizing the Bible from front to back, but that's what they made it. That means you're a prophet, but you're a female or a woman. You know, y'all need to realize that I move smooth. I have no choice because of who my original parents are. I have no choice. At this point, it's like they're not going to allow me to make a mistake. It's too much to risk. I woke up the Giants. That's big. That is it.